Hey everybody, this is my 40 breeder, formerly my Black Ghost Knifefish tank. And pretty soon we're going to be doing a little bit of work on this tank and we're going to be adding some fish to it. And so I want to do an update and get kind of a baseline with what's going on in here right now. Currently we are down to two of my rainbow fish. You can see one front and center right there, those little dwarf neons. The small one is being chased around by this large one, and of course large being a relative term here. That one is clearly dominant. You can see by the shape of its head and everything and its body shape that it's dominant. But the other one that was in here as of a few minutes ago, just a couple days ago, I thought was possibly a pregnant female. And I was actually getting kind of excited. I was looking forward to seeing some rainbow fish in this tank, maybe get some breeding or at least some spawning behavior going on or something. But it turns out that it was just all bloated up. I just went down, or when I just came down here now and checked, she was swimming around upside down, looked like a pine cone, definitely had that dropsy like appearance and was swimming like a corkscrew. And there's no point in even attempting to bring a fish back from that point in my experience. So I just went ahead and euthanized her. And now we are down to those two rainbow fish. So I don't know if I'm going to add any more and try to bolster that school back up, or I'm just going to call it good and leave those two in there. I'd swear there was four of them in here a week ago, the one we just discussed, and now we're down to two. So possibly I lost another one at some point. This tank has so many nooks and crannies, it would be easy for a small fish like that to just simply die and me not notice it before it gets either devoured or simply just rots away into the tank without even causing so much as an ammonia spike. So what we've got going on now is the possible sort of rebuilding of some schooling fish or something. I don't know. I feel like we've got enough fish swimming around in here as it is. I don't know if I want to build up that school of rainbows, as I was just saying. But we'll see. What I am going to be adding, however, is some Siamese Algae Eaters. I've got four of them in my quarantine tank. And even though the live bears I've put in here, between the little guppies and guppy endler hybrids, and then, of course, my big panda molly here, she's made short work of all of this algae once she got in here. But you can still see everything has that green, hairy look. You can see the hair algae sort of flowing in the current back there. I've still got lots of stringy, strandy hair algae in this tank, and we are also currently only operating on one of the two light fixtures I have. I'm not crazy about the light fixtures I have on this tank, but they are convenient. They were inexpensive. They're 3 feet long exactly, so they fit perfectly. It's a single LED tube. It gives the appearance of a T8 tube, but that is in fact an LED, and it is really, really bright. You can't even, well, there you go, now you can kind of make out the actual tube itself. But they're really, really bright, and so I've only got one of them going at the moment, and it kind of puts a lot of light in the tank. The only problem is this tank is so deep front to back that anywhere you put a light, even if you run a fixture right down the center, the forward part of the tank really doesn't get a lot of light on it. And when you've got fish like these rainbow fish, you really want to have the light at the front of the tank so that they're not being backlit. I know we're getting some blue coloration and everything there, but if that light was really on the forward edge of the tank and it was being lit directly above it, it would be a much, much different appearance. The other thing I don't like about the lights in this tank is the actual appearance of the light. It's a 4000K color temperature, or so that's what they say. I don't buy it. I don't even think it's that high. I think it's probably between 3000 or 3500K. It's one of those. I don't believe this is a 4000K. There's no real organization that forces industries to, any kind of standard, manufacturers can call it whatever they want is what I'm saying. So they're saying it's 4000K. I don't buy it. I've seen a lot of 4000K lights in my time, and that is a lot whiter than this. This is a very soft appeal to it, and to me that just screams 3000K or maybe 3500K. So again, I don't know. It doesn't look bad, but I used to have 10,000K on this tank. Put it that way. I used to have this tank really, really lit up. You could see all the colors in this tank vividly, and you just can't with this sort of low quality, we'll call it a 4000K tube. I need to get a higher quality light on here. I'll tell you one of the things that I tossed the idea around on my Patreon page. I do some videos on there where I'm just kind of thinking out loud, wondering, what I might do with this tank or might do with that project or whatever. And one of the ideas I tossed around over there was the idea of simply taking the hood and everything off of this tank, converting it into an open top tank, and then just hanging a couple of those really good high quality floodlights over top of it and just having it lit from above like that. I could even allow some of that temple plant to grow up and out of the top of it. Eventually this Anubias might get tall enough to come up out of the water. So that's still an option. I don't really have any fish in here that are known to be jumpers, except those rainbow fish. And I don't know about the Siamese Algae Eaters. Judging by their body shape, I could see them coming up and out of a tank if they got startled or the lights came on unexpectedly or something like that. So it's not anything I'm taking too seriously, but it is something I've considered. So I'd be interested in hearing your opinion about that, whether you think this tank being an open top tank with just some lights hanging over it, similar to the way my office tank is. If you're familiar with my 20 long open top office tank, I have a single LED floodlight hanging over that. And I like the look of it. I like it a lot. But in order for me to do that in this tank, it would really be changing up. This tank has been this way for years. And I know I've kind of talked about it being time for a change and maybe doing something different with this tank. So, I don't know. Maybe that is. But there's just so much sentimental value in this tank for me. I've got so much, memories and histories of this tank, of just being like this for so long. It almost seems a crying shame to get in there and start changing it around and doing things differently to it. I even felt bad when I took the original lighting off of it and switched it from the T5 high outputs that I had on there and switched it over to the LEDs. But I've got probably close to as much light as I had before, and I'm using about 20% of the electricity I was using before, and I'm also generating about 20% of the amount of heat I was generating before here in my fish room. So it doesn't feel like quite such a tropical jungle anymore down here now that I don't have so many really, really hot lighting fixtures going on in the same room. So anyway, I guess this is kind of a thinking out loud video as well. I'm not really going to do any work on the tank tonight or anything like that. I just wanted to kind of get a sort of baseline look at what it looks like now before the algae eaters go in there. I think I'm going to leave them in quarantine for a few more days. They've been in there for a couple of weeks now, but I did add that jumbo or Dumbo guppy in there, and basically if you add a new fish into the quarantine tank, you got to start the clock over. So I probably don't need to wait another week or two, but it also probably wouldn't be a bad idea to give it a few more days just to make sure we don't have anything obvious like an ick outbreak, or anything like that. But so far so good. Everybody in the quarantine tank looks fantastic, is behaving normally. Their colors are good. The algae eaters have gotten my quarantine tank so cleaned up, I almost feel like I need to move them out of there because they've run out of food source. And of course I am feeding them, algae wafers and fish food and everything else. But they really did get my quarantine tank cleaned up. So I can't wait to get them in this tank and see what difference it's going to make. So here's your kind of before. We're not going to make this a before and after, but good, again, get a good baseline look at how green and algae covered everything is. And then in a week or two, we'll see what it looks like again with those the Siamese algae eaters in there. They're the true Siamese, not the flying foxes and not the Chinese algae eaters, which I have in the tank to our left. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. You never know what it's going to be with me, and you don't want to miss any of it. So don't forget, this one is my 40 breeder. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.